It's the fall season, which means one sure thing in the Midwest. Schools from the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, or the WIAC, are again dominating the rankings. Hi, I'm Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports, and we're lucky today to be in Madison filming with 3 athletic directors from WIAC schools. So gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your school so we better understand why WIAC dominance is like the late great Maurice Weiss used to sing for Earth, Wind, and Fire, that's the way of the world. So Mr. Ely, why don't we start with you first since you're the person, sir.
Sure, thank you. Shannon Ely, the athletic director, been in the office of that role for about a little over a year now. The good thing about that is that that's my hometown and my alma mater, so after all these years it's great to be back and serving. We got a lot of potential in our institution, and we're off to a good start thus far.
Thank you so much. Mr. Simmons.
Good afternoon. Glad to be here. I'm the Assistant Chancellor and Director of Athletics at Oshkosh. We obviously didn't get here overnight, and I think my colleagues would all agree it's taken a lot of hard work for all of our schools to get to where we are. A lot of this really stems from the history of our conference. I mean, we like to think that we are certainly one of the better Division III conferences in the country, and it's really our job to kind of uphold that.
Thank you. Mr. Gargarelli.
Appreciate you having us today. Todd Gargarelli, Director of Athletics at Wisconsin Whitewater, and fortunate enough to be the AD for the last 14 months, and it's been a great first year. It's certainly an institution that is rich on championship success and academic success, and from a community standpoint, it's a great community. You know, it's a very attractive position to me coming here for those reasons. It's one of those rare institutions where you can compete for national championships year in and year out in almost every sport, and you got an administration and community that certainly revolves around athletics at that institution and that community.
So Mr. Sims, since you played in the NFL, why don't we start with you first? I think the most obvious question someone from the East Coast like me has is, how do WIAC schools do so well when you're surrounded by Big Ten powers?
Again, I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the success that schools have had in the past. And Todd just talked about the success that Whitewater has had over the last 7-10 years or so. They certainly have been the gold standard in our conference, and I certainly think around the country. People love sort of the hands-on approach, I think, to Division III and certainly to our conference. As I had mentioned just a moment ago, our conference is we feel like one of the better conferences in the country, and our young people want to be a part of that.
Todd, do you agree with that at the powerhouse of Whitewater?
I do. We were fortunate to have such great coaches and coaches there for a long time that have built such a tradition. And obviously, we talk about our program being powered by tradition and recruiting great student athletes to our campus and having an administration that really supports us athletically and really showcases us as the front porch of the institution in a lot of ways. So I spent nearly 20 years at the Division I level, and I can honestly say a lot of those programs didn't have a complete package academically, athletically, or socially like we do at Whitewater.
So, Mr. Ely, you were instrumental in turning UAB around in football. Do you see the same thing now at Platteville? Is it the same challenge, the same focus?
Well, I think it's all about providing the right opportunities and talking about the strength of our league. I think it starts with leadership, and so I think we all have a great group of chancellors that understand the importance and the value of intercollegiate athletics and creating those opportunities. And we've had a great history of conference commissioners, and Gary Carner and his leadership and his vision for this league is what has set us apart.
Oh, Dr. Carner is very hands-on.
I think I think one of the unique factors that helps have our success for our league is we've got 400,000 alumni amongst our institutions still in the state of Wisconsin. So because we don't have to travel too far, we're all pretty close together, and so we get a lot of support and certainly great coaches. But at the end of the day, we got to have great talent, and we've got great talent that's coming out of the state of Wisconsin that makes all of our institutions very, very competitive from top to bottom.
Now, when I interviewed football players from William & Mary on my show, they said that William & Mary had a unique way of recruiting. They would show you the list of the 148 William & Mary football players who had graduated with master's degree. What's the special sauce that you have at Plattsville to bring in such great players and build such a powerhouse?
Yeah, well, certainly first and foremost, it's all about the student-athlete experience, and that's what we focus on. Engineering is one of our strongest academic majors, and so we've had a rich tradition of engineers majors being successful student athletes, and so that's what we really try to promote, the fact that you can definitely be a student athlete. For the 17th straight year, our student athletes have outpaced the general student body in GPA,
And
so it's the best of both worlds.
Do you speak from your experience from playing for Plattsville?
I was an okay athlete, and I was an okay student.
So, Mr. Sims, as an okay athlete who played in the NFL, do you use that to help recruit players too?
You know, when I get a chance to meet with the parents and with prospective student athletes, I always talk about my collegiate experience, and really in some cases, I wish I would have had a Division III experience.
And why is that, sir?
Well, there's a healthy balance between athletics and academics, and that is the general philosophy across the board, and we certainly live up to that day in and day out. All of our students have an opportunity to be involved with different things on campus, and that's important to us, and certainly to my colleagues at Division III institutions. So I am always talking about the academic piece, probably more so than I talk about the athletic piece, and I use myself as an example of what I went through when I was in college, and what a great experience it was, but the differences of the two, and certainly the value of being a Division III student athlete.
So coming from your D1 background, Todd, what are the advantages you see for going to a D3 school for a student athlete who's highly recruited?
Well, you know, fortunately, we get some of those Division I type athletes at Whitewater from a transfer standpoint, or looking at us versus some of the D1s. You know, it really comes down to, as Shannon alluded to and Darryl alluded to, the student athlete experience, that well-rounded, you know, philosophy, and talking about the championship culture, and really a unique place to be able to attain your degree, but also have that experience of competing for and winning championships on an annual basis.
Now, based on your experience, when did you make the decision to go into college sports administration?
You know, at an early age, I went to school out east at Slippery Rock University. Was always involved in sports and knew that it's something I wanted to do, you know, as a career. And fortunately, a great sport management program at Slippery Rock University, and had some guidance early that got me into college athletics, and had some really great mentors along the way to really focus and shape my career.
Mr. Sims, what made you decide to pursue a career in college sports administration?
You know, I had worked at UW Oshkosh years ago as an assistant defensive line coach. I was trying to get into the coaching game, and the athletic director then, Al Ackerman, he and I had stayed in touch over the years. I had a job in NFL Europe in the spring, and when I would come back to Wisconsin in the fall, I'd commit some time in the athletic department, and when I finally decided I wanted to get out of coaching, he and I had a very long conversation about athletic administration, and really just being around Al and being around the kids and seeing how things operated. It was sort of this slow, methodical migration, and I love what I do.
It's really what made you decide to pursue college sports
I
administration?
was probably a little bit of a late bloomer. After I graduated with a degree in business administration, I got a job, and it was just when cell phones started coming out. So I was selling cellular telephones, and it used to be the old bag phones that people would carry around in cars, and so pretty tough sell, and just not what I wanted to do. And so I went back to my football coach at the time, George Christ, who was at one point the athletic director, and Bo Ryan, who were two mentors of mine at Platteville. And they steered me into that direction. And when I was coming up, there was not a lot of programs out there for sports administration. And so I decided to go to Ohio University to get my sports administration program. And fortunately, from there, I was able to get an internship at the University of Florida. And
so you finally had a warm winter.
I did have a good warm winter, and I had about 25 of them because I was in Birmingham, Alabama for quite a while too.
So do you notice more and more students coming up to you and saying, you know, what do I do to become a college athletic director?
Yeah, you know, it's amazing how many calls I get, not even just from a campus standpoint, but a lot of people. And the thing that I've noticed, it's people that have already graduated and say, you know, I really want to have a career in athletics. How do I do that? And as I mentioned, you know, there's so many programs now that offer a master's in sports administration. So it's just so much more of a common choice than it was when I was growing up. But yeah, there's been a handful of student athletes that come to me and say, you know, I want to do what you do ultimately. And so we try to get them involved in the athletic department and try to get them some practical experience and you know, promote those types of opportunities, because again, it's certainly a very rewarding career.
Have you noticed more and more female athletes coming to you and saying, you know, how do I go about becoming an athletic director? Dr. Carla Williams, you know, she just became the AD at the University of Virginia.
You know, I think that's what we talk about. We talk about promoting opportunities, and so there certainly are more female opportunities coming up in our industry, and so there have been some females, but again, I think the most important thing for me is just students in general have been wanting to pursue this career and ask me how to do it. And as we know, there's really no right path or wrong path to do it. It's just it's pursuing those opportunities and remaining diligent.
Mr. Sims, do you notice more students asking you how to
I do. I agree with everything that Shannon had just said, and I'll add this. I always tell them it's important to let people know what it is that you want to do. I mean, where's your passion, and if sports administration is it, then they need to start to work towards that end. Way more opportunities now than there was, I think, when we all kind of got into the business. And I am always willing to sit down and have a conversation and make opportunities available to our young people. Some of them figure out it's not what they really want to do, and that's okay too. But certainly the idea of having more and more people involved in our industry is very, very rewarding.
You find more females coming up to you and asking you how to become a college athletic director?
Surprisingly, yes. As I look back historically, clearly that was not the case years ago. So it's very, very exciting that some of our young females are very, very interested in being athletic directors, or just being in the athletic administration, part of running a department. And again, we make everything that we have available to them to help them get down their path.
You know, with your football background, do you think a D3 environment is more friendly to a female in that it's not dominated by football the way like an SEC school would be, or
Sure.
Big Ten school?
I agree. I think what's great about Division III is the balance between academics and athletics. And so I think any of our young people, or any of our schools, young people could certainly get into this industry at this level and really, really do well.
Mr. Guazzarelli, do you notice more students coming to you at Whitewater asking you how to pursue that?
Without a doubt. And we've got a graduate program on campus for athletic administration. It's weekly. There's 2 or 3 emails or someone stopping by the office wanting to do a job shadow, an interview, or some kind of opportunity for an internship within our department or practical experience, and which I think is great. And at the Division III level versus the Division I, I think you can wear many different hats and get exposed to a lot of different areas within the department instead of being segmented from an internship at a Division I, where a lot of times you're isolated into a marketing or a compliance or a business type element. Where Division III, you can wear many hats and touch many different fields and probably get a better broad-based experience level at a Division III.
Now, when I interviewed Heather Light, the athletic director at the University of Pittsburgh for my show, she said the thing that she liked best about being an athletic director was taking a child from a parent and having to be able to usher them over the next 4 years of their life, from a teenager to a young adult. What's your favorite part of being an athletic director at Whitewater?
It's giving back. I mean, obviously, it's a very rewarding career. Long hours, you know, obviously with all the nights and weekends and the events, but it's such a rewarding to see kids and young student athletes grow from 18 to 22 and being able to touch so many different lives in so many different ways, whether it's on the field or shaping them and giving them the opportunities from a life skill standpoint, from community service or career building when we do those things with resume building and bringing our alums in and connecting them for potential internship opportunities. It's a huge responsibility without a doubt, but you're able to shape and guide so many lives, and it's really rewarding at the end of the day to see your student athletes grow and mature and become, you know, great role models and part of society.
So, Mr. Sims, what's your favorite part of the day at Oshkosh?
Well, I would agree with Todd here, but also the part that I think I love more than anything else is having the conversation with mom and dad when they come to campus and say, okay, this is the part when you walk away and turn them over to us.
Every athletic director says the same thing.
And turn them over to us and let your son and your daughter now grow into these really great, responsible young people. And helping them along the way. And seeing them then come back to campus after they graduate and they're proud alumni, and they talk about their experiences on campus and how wonderful it was, how scared it was initially, but at the end of the day, they sailed our campus better than we ever could.
Now, when I interviewed Harry Stinson at Lincoln University, before our interview, I had to wait because he was comforting a father because his baby boy, who looked to be about 6'5", 320 pounds, was leaving for football. What type of things do you tell a father who's worried about that with their son or their daughter? Their parents going for 4 years.
I went through that with my mom, and I'll tell you, the coach at Madison at the time was a guy named Arnold Jeter. And he had that very same conversation with my mom, who was scared to death that her 6'4", 265-pound son was really going to have a very difficult time leaving home for the first time. And I couldn't wait to leave. And, but just simply that they're going to be okay.
And she had that same conversation with Coach Ditka with the Bears?
I'm sure of it. But they're going to be okay. I mean, this is a great time in their lives to grow and develop, to become responsible people, to earn a degree. To figure out what it is that they want to do with the rest of their lives, and just to be a part of that. And again, I think that's great about our conference, and great about each one of the individual schools, and all the kids are a part of it.
So, Ms. Lee, what's your favorite part of being back in Plattsville as the athletic director this time in the big chair?
Yeah, certainly. Again, it's special to when you can go back to your hometown and your alma mater and get back to the program that meant so much to me. Again, really defining experiences for me. Leadership and time management and teamwork and all those great skills. And so, for us, it's about creating those valuable opportunities and making sure that today's student athletes have those great quality experiences that we did, and preparing those student athletes for life.
Let's touch back on what you said when you played. I taught recently at the University of Iowa. Gary Bart is the athletic director, fantastic program, great school. I had 3 varsity athletes in my class. Their only complaint about Iowa and the program there was the guacamole was not chunky enough. Now, how do things compare when you were playing ball for Plattsville, how the student athletes are treated now?
Well, I think, again, budgets have grown and resources have grown, probably a few more coaches, and the travel's gotten a little bit further than when I played, but again, it's all fundamentally the same. Certainly our campus has changed quite a bit progressively with buildings, and some of the facilities have improved since I played, but again, I think it's still a great experience for today's student athlete.
Now, when I interviewed Ed Scott, the athletic director at Morgan State University, he said he was very hands-on when it came to the meals. He wanted to make sure that his basketball players were eating lean and mean protein. He wanted to make sure that his football players were eating the protein that was going to bulk them up. Do you get hands-on with that type of thing, too? The sleep research, the nutrition, making sure the recovery is taking place after working out?
Yeah, it's not that's not my area of expertise, but we certainly have our strength and conditioning staff that are very focused on that, and monitoring, and like I said, it's become so high-tech, and that's one area that has certainly changed from when I played, is nutrition and sleep patterns and rest and recovery and all those kinds of things. So between our strength and conditioning, and then we also have somebody on campus that works with our student athletes from a nutrition standpoint.
Ms. Sims, you take the same hands-on approach too when it comes to nutrition for your student athletes at Oxford?
Well, some of our coaches would say I take a very hands-on approach to nutrition. I try not to miss any of the meals that might involve especially our coaches. But again, much like Shannon, we've got great staff on our campus between strength and conditioning and our nutrition people that work with all of our student athletes to make sure that they're getting the proper rest and they're eating well, and especially when we travel. That always seems to be one of the areas where things can drop off a little bit, and we think that they're doing a hell of a job.
You have the same approach at Whitewater?
Yeah, and we fortunately have a great staff from athletic training to our nutritionists, our sports psychologists that are working with us, and athletic trainers and orthos and docs. I mean, my real hands-on approach is to make sure we're providing the proper amenities, but I mean, they do such a great job that there's really little worry about that for the most part.
Now, when I had a sports psychologist on my show, she was a sports psychologist for the U.S. Winter Olympic team. She said there's so much with visualization that there's specialization. How does your sports psychologist fit into your department?
They work either individually or collectively with certain teams.
Have the players accepted it? I mean, there's such a stigma to mental illness.
There is, and we're fortunate enough to have 2 really good ones with this, working with our programs. And they work either individually if the student athletes warrant it, or they work collectively and do team bonding and building with individual programs as a whole. So we're fortunate enough to have both of those sports psychologists with us, former student athletes, so they understand the rigors of the daily activities and obviously what our student athletes are going through. So we're fortunate to have them on staff and providing their leadership to our student athletes and coaches in that area.
How important are the mental health aspects for the student athletes?
Mental health issues are obviously very, very prevalent today, more so than when I played. And so we're always very, very sensitive about that particular area. We don't have a sports psychologist working in our department. Certainly this is something that we need to be looking into. Mm-hmm. But if a kid comes to us and tells us that she or he feels like that there might be a concern in that particular area, we've got a number of other departments on campus that are always willing to step in to help us out.
So, Mr. Lee, do you see at Plattsville that the mental health aspects are more and more embraced by the student
and I don't think
athletes and the coaches?
I don't think it's just a student athlete. I just, from everything that I've heard, this is just the general student body faces more stress and mental challenges than ever before. And so we've got a lot of great resources on our campus. So we partner with our counseling services on campus to provide those opportunities. So really for us, it's allowing the experts to do their jobs, and we really promote those types of resources. And for us, the athletic trainers are on the front line for us, really knowing probably more so than even the coaches of what our athletes are going through. And so they're the initial identifiers. And so if there's any concerns at all, they can find those keys and make sure that they see the proper resources on campus.
And you think it's probably easier for a student athlete to open up to the athletic trainer than it is to their coach?
Well, in some cases, I think everybody's got a little different point of contact, but I certainly think the athletic trainers are somebody that's very close to our student athletes, and I think that that's a real comfortable source for our student athletes to go to initially.
You know, you all have ascended to the highest levels of your profession, so let's talk leadership styles here now. Napoleon said that the best company leaders, who are about 120 people, make the worst battalion leaders, because that's about 1,000 soldiers, as a different leadership style is necessary for those sizes of the unit. How is your leadership style? You've moved up the ladder in college sports?
Yeah, well, again, it's a work in progress, and I think you're prepared until you get in the chair, and you have to be adaptable and flexible. You know, I think different situations call for different leadership styles, but my preferred method is certainly servant leadership and making sure that I'm serving the needs of our staff, and I just believe in the motto and love, serve, and care.
So, Mr. Sims, how has your leadership style changed as you've ascended the ladder in college sports administration?
I like to think that I'm a little less hands-on as I was probably 6-7 years ago. We try to hire very, very good people and give them all the resources that they need to do the job, and they know that I'm there anytime that they need me. But in terms of just making sure that they're taking care of our student athletes, we feel like all of our coaches are prepared. And as long as I don't get in the way, I think everything will be just fine.
Yes, Mr. Garzarelli, I read a great book in which a detective said you need 3 pieces of evidence to solve a crime. Never 1, 2's not going to do it unless you get lucky. What are the 3 things you look for when you hire?
I look for character and making sure we do our due diligence in the background and making sure we're hiring the right people that fit, you know, our philosophy and our core values as a department. 2, someone who's either played at a high level or coached at a high level and had that championship success that our department's used to. And 3, someone who's going to work diligently and provide for our student athletes. And you know, we always go back to that student athlete experience and making sure we're taking care of our student athletes. Someone who's going to certainly do that.
So as your leadership style changed as you've moved up, how do you feel those 3 things have changed, or are they still the same?
Still the same. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are running a department or a unit. It's really the same subservient and servant leadership style. It's the making sure the folks underneath you have the resources necessary and being that conduit to fight for them, whether it's across campus in the community, to continue to reinvest back into the program and making sure you're providing the right resources for people to be successful. And I think that's the #1 key. And I look at myself as a conduit to make sure everyone below me has the resources possible to be successful, and you're continuing to put everyone in a situation to be successful.
So Mr. Sims, what do you look for when you hire, sir?
I look for someone that values a student-athlete experience, #1. At the end of the day, if we don't have any student-athletes, I don't need any coaches, I don't need athletic trainers, and all those other folks. 2, I make sure that they understand and really appreciate the Division III philosophy. That is at the core of what we do and how we do what we do. And thirdly, someone that I don't have to handhold. Someone that can come in and do the job that we're hiring them for and do it well.
Now, there was a great thing from Clyde Dowdy at Bowie State University. He tweeted out this week, if you're a micromanager, you're missing the macro picture. Do you agree with that from what you just said?
I would agree with that.
So, Mr. Ely, what 3 things do you look for when you hire, sir?
Yeah, a lot like what these guys have already said. You know, certainly character, integrity is right up there. Somebody that is going to uphold the student-athlete opportunity and experience. And then somebody that, quite honestly, wants to be at our institution and is a great fit for our department program.
Now, Heather, like she said, she looks for passion when she hires. So do you see that looking for that person who wants to be that fit? How do you see that passion? What do you look for?
Yeah, and I think it's different for all of our institutions, but like for us at University of Wisconsin-Platteville, sometimes we've got to go get more of an up-and-comer that's really hungry and might be a little bit younger and might not just be that seasoned coach. So again, we try not to put ourselves in a box. It's just really trying to find the best possible coaching candidate and fit that's going to serve our student athletes.
Now, when I interviewed Derek Carter, the athletic director at Coppin State University, he said he's proud when a D1 school hires away one of his administrators or one of his coaches. He says, you know, he feels that he has done his job and helped his person's career. Do you feel that same way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're here to serve those in our organization, and so we want them to continue to pursue their goals and dreams, and so I fully support that.
Mr. Simmons, do you feel the same sense of pride knowing that, you know, you've done a great job in turning that administrator or coach? You can, you know, move on to a different approach,
yes,
different league.
As most people know, we lost our men's basketball program to another school. Pat came in and turned our program around, and no one was happy for him when he had that opportunity.
Mr. Garza, you had the same feeling when you see someone hire away one of your best administrators or best coaches?
Certainly. Again, it goes back to making sure that you're putting people in positions to be successful, and a lot of times that is for them to move on and to really run a unit department of their own and to be at a high level where they want to be. And certainly they always have goals and aspirations, and every day you're trying to check those boxes for your employees, you know, the folks that are working for you, to make sure they're reaching those goals and being successful.
Have you seen a lot of your administrators and coaches turn down offers that they think I would have taken that one?
You know, in the short year that I've been here, we've had several coaches have opportunities or be approached from other institutions, and yeah, it's complimentary because, you know, you're at the highest level when you're getting those overtures, and obviously other institutions have been the same way.
So when you look at the state of Wisconsin, Barry Alvarez at University of Wisconsin, he says he walls off Wisconsin in his recruiting. What's the approach you take at Whitewater? Not only do you have, you know, the Big Ten to deal with around you, you've got the big dog here in Madison, you know, walling off Wisconsin too. What's the approach you take at Whitewater?
Well, you know,
it clearly works.
Yeah, obviously recruiting is very competitive. You've got a lot of great institutions in a short span mileage-wise, so we want to make sure that we recruit our backyard and making sure we're getting the right folks from the surrounding area around the Whitewater. But also, you know, we do a good job of recruiting, you know, south of our border too, into Illinois. And, you know, we make sure that we're getting the best student athletes, probably in a 3.5 hour radius. I mean, it's really what we're looking for, and even beyond that sometimes.
Mr. Sims, with the approach you take at Oshkosh?
We try to make sure that anybody that wants to come to our institution, we want to take a look at. We certainly don't limit ourselves to anywhere in the country, depending on the sport. We've gotten young people from Tennessee, from Florida, from Alabama. So we'll go wherever we have to go just to go get them.
Mr. Ely, what's the approach you take up to Placerville to bring them in?
Yeah, I think the unique composition of the state of Wisconsin is that, you know, you've got one major Division I program, and then we've got a couple of smaller Division I's, but really there's a lot of Division III's in our league, and so I think that not everybody can go to those schools, and so that's why our talent is so good. You know, I was reading a statistic that you know, 80% of our student athletes are coming from the state of Wisconsin, so it goes to show you that obviously there's plenty enough to go around for all of us. And you know, like Todd said, where we're located in Platteville, we are recruiting a lot of kids from Illinois and Iowa as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think the approach is that you take for bringing in their students from out of state to a D3 school in a small town in Wisconsin? How do you feel to someone from Chicago, someone from Miami, you know, someone from Tuscaloosa, say come up here and play D3 ball?
Yeah, well, I think it's about competing at the highest level. And so I think the reputation of our league as the premier Division III league in the country certainly helps that. The fact that we also offer strong academic programs, it's just a great combination.
So in terms of being as best as anyone in the country, what's the game day like experience like at Plattsville?
Well, it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot better when you're winning. But fortunately for us, our football program has been in the top 25 the last couple of years, and so the rivalries that we have against the two gentlemen that I have just creates a lot of interest. And then our men's basketball program has had a rich history with 4 national championships under Bo Ryan, and so again, I think it's that kind of success that makes it very attractive.
So Mr. Sims, what's the game day like experience at Oshkosh, and how does it help you recruit people from Florida, Alabama, Texas, places like that?
Well, we tell people all the time, we remember what it was like prior to now, and they really want to be a part of what we're doing right now. And we explain to them how we got to where we are, and our people just want to be a part of it. They understand that, again, if you want to play Division III football or basketball or any other sport, you want to be a part of the WIAC. And game day on our campus in terms of football is exciting now as it has ever been. We've been fortunate to be ranked probably the last 5 or 6 years, and that has certainly helped in a number of different ways. So we love it. When we play these guys, it's always a big day, and our alumni certainly can't wait, and we can't wait.
So Whitewater, what's the game day experience like there, and how does it help you recruit?
It's awesome. It's really a vibrant game day atmosphere. I would compare it to almost a Division I type experience. I mean, the tailgating is live. Fans are there early. We've added some concerts into the mix with some national acts. In game, we've got a lot of stuff going on activity-wise, so it's really a vibrant. It's more of an event in the community, and the community has really embraced not just our athletic program, but specifically football over the years. So they've come out in full force. And I know a couple of years ago, it was before I got here, there was 17-5 in the stands for the Oshkosh Whitewater game, which at the time set a single game record. And I think we're pushing this year, 8,000, 10,000 in the seats. So it's a lot more than a lot of the smaller Division I schools that are getting into their facilities.
In terms of recruiting and bringing in the transfers, which Whitewater certainly seems to excel at, just like James Madison at the D1 level, have you asked the transfers and said, well, what do you prefer about coming down here to Whitewater that you didn't like at the big D1 program?
A lot of times when our student athletes leave the state of Wisconsin and go to the Division I's or 1AA, FCS or Division II's, a lot of times they get lost in the shuffle and they just want to be back home. And a lot of times we're fortunate enough to get them on the rebound because they want to be closer to home or family wants to see them. And nowadays recruits buy with their eyes. They want to see the facilities, where they're going to play. Is mom and dad going to be able to see me? Obviously with the internet, Division III with the streaming, you could get a lot of that exposure. But a lot of times it comes down to playing time. Playing time, versus sitting at the Division I or II level for a couple of years and play right away, make an impact. Obviously once we get them on our campus, it's a gorgeous campus.
Yes,
the academics sell themselves. So really we're fortunate enough to have a pretty good full package, well-rounded package to attract a lot of those transfers coming back.
So Mr. Sims, what did the transfers say to you when they say, the best decision I ever made in college was, transferring back to Oshkosh?
And Todd nailed it. For an opportunity to compete. Being at a Division I or 1AA, whatever the case may be, and sitting on the bench versus coming to a Whitewater or a Platteville or an Oshkosh, knowing that you're going to have an opportunity to get on the field, the mat, the pool, or whatever. That's been the biggest selling point.
What did they say to you? Did they transfer back to Plattsville?
I think with social media today, the big thing is that wow factor, and so I think these kids get a little bit enamored with the recruiting process and signing day and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's a little bit the grass is always a little bit greener, and then reality hits them, and again, they see how competitive our league is, and so again, a lot of it comes down to playing time and just want to have great experience and opportunity to win national championships, and that's what we can do in this league.
Now, speaking of reality hitting, next month in October, LeBron James is coming out with a movie about college sports. I haven't seen the previews of it, but I'm suspecting it's going to say that the athletes are poorly treated and that the players should be played. Have you ever known any college athletes to turn down a scholarship or anything like that to go to a school and graduate nearly $40,000 in debt like the average school at any level?
Well, in my experience at Division I, where we had scholarships, again, I think all those individuals were very, very grateful, and I think it's a very outspoken handful that don't feel like they're treated right or that they should be paid. I'm a big believer in amateurism and the purity of college sports and the tradition and the pageantry. So again, I think we do, when those conversations happen, I think we do definitely undervalue the cost of an education.
Mr. Sims, is that 1% who was good enough to take it to the show and play at the next level? What do you think of the way college athletes are treated now today when you were, I mean, have you known anyone to ever turn down a scholarship or say, no, it's not like that?
I haven't known any that have turned down a scholarship. I think a lot of the guys that I knew and played with back in the day, I don't think their parents would have allowed them to turn down a scholarship, number one. And then really number two, if they were unhappy, I think most of those guys and girls ended up just enjoying the opportunity to be in college and getting a valued degree, and then leaving it at that.
So, Mr. Garzarelli, as someone who does have a D1 background, worked your way up, have you ever known any athletes who have turned down scholarships to graduate nearly $40,000 in debt like the average student?
No, I have not come across that in my time. My playing days at Slippery Rock, I mean, our amenities weren't very great, and going through the Division I world, and even now in Division II, Division III, everyone keeps adding to that student athlete experience. I've never really seen a student athlete with all the training tables at the Division I level, really go hungry now. The unlimited meals that you can get.
Well, if they had to live on guacamole.
Yeah, there is some of that. But yeah, I think that our student athletes are very well taken care of, across the board, even at the Division III level. I mean, we provide enough resources for them to have that well-rounded experience, and I know everyone is committed to continuing to do that. And that's the one thing about the WIAC conference. It is certainly what's right about college athletics from an academic and athletic standpoint, and making sure Commissioner Carter makes sure, with his Student Athlete Institute, and making sure we're doing things right for our student athletes. And that's probably the difference level between Division I and Division III. A lot of the Division I schools are chasing those Power Fives and almost going bankrupt and dropping sports, where us at the Division III level and really the WIAC, I think, do it the right way and for our student athletes.
So based on your D1 experience at a variety of schools, let's suppose that it does hit the fan and colleges have to start paying the players. Right now, the FBS schools, over 100 are losing money, and that's with huge tax breaks that might be there next year. What happens at Whitewater if you have to start paying the players?
We probably have to relook at our sports configurations. I mean, to be honest, financially, it would be a burden.
Mr.
Sims, what happens at Oshkosh if you have to start paying the players?
I would agree. We would certainly have to take a very serious look at our program structure and what we could afford to have and what we certainly need to have.
So what happens at Plattsville if you have to start paying the players?
Well, exactly what they said. I think we've got to have a larger conversation. If that gets to our level that we have those types of things, I think we've got our priorities and our balances out of whack.
I mean, that would be a huge change in college athletics. I mean, much like the ones, we've also seen with female sports now, too. I mean, has it stunned you at the level of competition now in female athletics?
Well, I think it's great to see the amount of opportunities that we're providing. Certainly, my background at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, we've got more student athletes at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville than we did at UAB. And so, again, that's what we're all about, is providing opportunities and quality experiences and allowing them to get their degree while also being able to play the sport that they love.
So, Mr. Sims, when I was interviewing the athletic director at University of Wyoming, I was talking to a female golfer before the show, and she had scratch handicap. I said, well, how good's your father? And she said, the old man plays to about 14 or 15. I said, well, do you cut him a break when you ever play him? She goes, no, I don't let him tee off from the short tees. I mean, do you see that same cutthroat attitude with your female athletes at Oshkosh?
I do. They are very, very competitive, probably more so than some of our male student athletes, which is good. And we love seeing it, and we do everything we can to encourage them, because we know it's going to make them a better competitor and probably just a more well-rounded individual.
So, Ms. Garfield, does the same thing stun you, the way the female athletes are at Whitewater?
Yeah, there's no difference really between the male athletes, student athletes at Whitewater. They train just equally as hard. They compete as equally as hard, if not harder in some instances, because they still want to prove themselves a little bit. But no, I think, as Shannon said, it's about providing opportunities, and we certainly have some really great female student athletes and coaches at Whitewater.
So I'm from the South, but I became a huge college hockey fan by going to graduate school up in Boston. What's hockey season like out your way?
It's you see the Blackhawks flags flying around. We don't have hockey as an institution, but You see some checks in the hallway once in a while when fall season comes around. But no.
What's hockey like out at Oshkosh?
We don't have hockey in Oshkosh. Our commissioner would certainly like for that to change. But the people that I know who do love hockey, when it's that time of the year, they're certainly wearing all the appropriate apparel and they're talking all the appropriate language. And it can't be a physical confrontation.
So what's the whole hockey scene like at Plattsville?
Yeah, we don't offer hockey at our institution either, but again, talking to our colleagues in the league that do, it sounds like some great stories and great atmosphere and a lot of fun.
So whose basketball games are worth making the trip up to come watch this year?
I would go with Whitewater. But I think you would be happy with all three choices. I think you're going to have some really good competitiveness, just like this past year in our conference. It's pretty vibrant and pretty equal for the most part annually.
You know, I checked your tweets before the interview and stuff. There were a lot of tweets about tennis, which kind of surprised me. What sports or programs would shock me at your school for the average person that you would not associate with a D3 school in Wisconsin? Really?
I don't know that we have anything too out of the ordinary. We have men's soccer, which is not a conference sport, so we play an independent schedule. That would probably be about the most unique in our institution.
I think we're pretty solid across the board. I don't think we have anything that would be out of the ordinary.
You know, I would say the same thing with Daryl. We do have hockey, and we have a couple programs: men's tennis, men's soccer, and bowling, which doesn't have a conference right now. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention our women's gymnastics program won the national championship 5 out of the last 7 years.
And how did you build up that strong program? Because when you look at most gymnastics, it's generally Alabama, schools like that are strong.
It was there before I got there. Our coach has done a tremendous job in building that. So I'm just trying to help her propel and sustain that.
And how does the recruiting go for that?
Pretty good. And really, she recruits nationally. I mean, it's not just to Wisconsin. She gets some folks from Colorado. She has some folks from Tennessee and out west, Pennsylvania. So she does a great job. Obviously, it's a niche sport. There's not a lot of colleges, across the board that have them. But she does a great job with that program.
So let's finish up. I know you guys are busy and have to leave. So let's finish up with just one basic question for you. You're now at the D3 level now. What do you see as the best thing? What makes you happiest that you're there rather than at a D1 school?
I think it's the culture and it's the well-roundedness of providing and the amateurism and doing it the right way. And
is there a closeness between the student athletes and the administration you don't see at the bigger schools?
There is, without a doubt. And obviously it's that well-rounded academically, athletically, socially well-roundedness, and the culture. It's a little bit different. It's not as cutthroat as that Division I, where it's always based on wins. It's based on really providing opportunities in the student-athlete experience.
Mr. Sims, what makes you so pleased and so happy to be at the WIAC?
I would say the interaction that we get to have with our student athletes daily. Many of them come through the office for one reason or another. I get a chance to actually visit with them daily, before practices, after practices, sometimes during practice. Something I think would be very, very difficult to do at our level.
So, Mr. Ely, what makes you so glad to be back home again at Plattsville, sir, in WIAC?
Well, and again, that's what's so special for me, is to be back in my hometown and my alma mater. But the ability, the access that we have to the student athletes and being able to go to their practices and interact with them on a daily basis is really what it's all about, and it's so very rewarding.
It's very clear how much you guys do care about your programs and your student athletes from this interview, which I do thank you for taking the time. This is Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports. Thank you for joining us today.